Hey guys, Brent here, and in this quick tip I'm going to explain the little camera I've been taking around with me traveling around the world and what I love about it and the things that aren't so great about it. Stick around and watch. Hey guys, Brent here. I'm going to review this great little camera, the Fujifilm X-E2, and I'm going to break this review up into two separate videos and two separate blog posts. The first one, which is this one, I'm going to run through the build of this camera, the look and feel, and all the pros and cons, basically the quick review of what I love about it and what I think it's going to be used for. And in the next blog, I'm going to go into the images in more detail and have a look at some of the great images that this camera can produce. So let's get right into it. Okay, so the look and feel of this camera. Now, I've been traveling quite a bit lately. We've created a few landscape photography video series on how to take great photos with Jay and Verena, and we went to New Zealand and I took this camera along as a behind the scenes camera, and I got some great footage from behind the scenes. And also I took this with me at Easter up to my family, and I took my kids and wife along too, and we had Easter and I took a lot of photos with this little camera. So basically the short answer to, I guess, this review is this camera any good and what is it used for? Well, the camera is great. This is an excellent little camera, and if you use it in the right way, it can be really beneficial to you. For instance, it's a great little camera for taking along on a road trip and just capturing life's moments, little things that are happening, kids, activities, events like Easter or Christmas. Great camera for that. It's also a great camera for everyday things at home, capturing everyday moments. Great little camera for that. It's also an excellent camera for doing behind the scenes still photography if you are doing something like creating a course or traveling. And that's what this camera is excellent at doing. Landscapes, great too, for shooting landscapes. Portraits, yes, good, as long as people aren't moving too quickly and running towards you and that type of thing. So excellent everyday camera. I would highly recommend it, especially with this lens, which is the 23mm f1.4 lens. So where this camera is not so great is if you are photographing moving things, so kids running towards you, animals, that type of thing, and the video isn't as good as I hoped in this camera. I guess it's because of the autofocus, really. The autofocus on when you're moving around or things are moving, subjects are moving, isn't the best in this camera. It's good, but it's not brilliant. Not like my professional SLR cameras like this one over here. So let's jump right into it, and I'll run through what impresses me about this camera. Okay, so let's have a look at the look and feel and the build of this camera. It's a solid little camera. It's light, so it's easy to take along with you. You can pop it into a little bag. Especially if you take this off the so you don't get lens flare. The lens hood. You can pop it into your bag. It's pretty small. It's relatively light, but it's a solid build. It's made out of magnesium alloy. It's just really well built, and it's got that retro kind of cool old feel about it. I love that. It looks like an old retro camera. If you pull it out and you take a picture, people are like, wow, what's that? Is that, it looks like something out of the 70s or 80s. So it's awesome. I love it. The other things I like on this camera is the aperture is on the lens. So I can turn the aperture, I can close the aperture, open the aperture right on the lens over here, so I can see exactly where I was. And at first when I was photographing with this camera, it confused me because I couldn't figure out how I changed the aperture. I mean, you can put it on auto over there, the little A indication on this lens, and then it'll automatically change the aperture according to what you want. So you can shoot it in fully auto, like auto on the shutter speed and auto on the aperture, and then it's in fully auto mode and you can go ahead with that. However, I love to shoot this wide open aperture f1.4 because it's such a good little lens. It's so sharp. And then possibly what I do is leave the shutter speed on auto, and I shoot everything as 1.4. It's got a couple of autofocus settings, so you can put it on to manual autofocus. Now this is really cool, and then you've actually, this is something I learned too, it took me forever. You actually got to pull that back, so you can pull that back on the lens, and then you can manually focus the camera, which is cool if it's battling to focus, which it does sometimes. It kind of hunts the focusing. You can put it back to autofocus on the lens there, and then you can go to continuous autofocus, so that's when something's moving towards you, and it should track them. And then we got the S for the still autofocus. So those are the different autofocus and then manual focus, different focus settings. So I'll leave it on the still one. It still hunts a little bit. It's not bad. It's also got face detection on here, which is another great little feature. And it works most of the time, the face detection. It detects someone and it will focus on their face. Pretty cool when it works, not so cool when it doesn't work. All right, so let's look at all the pros, the great things about this camera. All right, so the build is awesome, and the feel, I love the feel of it, the retro look. It's a great feature for this camera. The controls, you got plenty of controls on the back here. You can control everything, basically. You can control shutter speed, aperture, ISO, whether you're overexposing over there on the top really quickly or underexposing. It's got this little quick menu in the back here, the little queue, and you can run through all the menu settings over there, and you can quickly change things, you know, white balance, what ratio you're photographing, 3:2 or 16:9 or 1:1 ratio. You can choose whether you're shooting in fine JPEG or raw and fine JPEG. You can even choose the film mode that you want to use, you know, standard, you know, like sepia film, black and white, which is pretty cool. And there's a whole bunch of things you can control on the back there on the quick menu, which is really cool, like that. What else has this camera got? Okay, so, yes, the image quality is excellent. Because of the sensor, it's a 16 megapixel sensor, 16.3, and it's an APS-C size sensor, so it's really good. It's actually the sensor that you find in a lot of digital SLR cameras, and this is a mirrorless camera, just so we are clear on that. It's not an SLR where the mirror actually flicks up. So it's a mirrorless camera, and it's got an excellent sensor for the size of the camera, and the images come out top quality. They're great, and that's because it's got something called a lens modulation optimizer. And what that does is it knows the flaws in the lens, or where the lens might not be great, and it actually adjusts your image accordingly, so that the JPEG, if you're shooting as JPEG, the JPEG comes out super sharp and super good, even with a couple of flaws in the lens, because this camera knows what lens is on there. So that's a great feature. It also shoots pretty fast, 7 frames a second if you're shooting action or sports. The only thing is, can you focus on the moving subject? That's not such a great thing. Okay, what else can I do? Yes, the Wi-Fi button. So if I'm in the play mode and I'm looking at some of the images that I took over here, and then I can go into the Wi-Fi mode. I just click on the top there, Wi-Fi. And the great thing about this is if you've got the app on your iPhone or your Android phone, you can actually then connect to it from your phone to the camera, and you can download the images from the camera to your phone and then post them on Facebook or Google Plus or Instagram, whatever you want to. That's a great feature. You don't have to actually download through, you know, a physical means. Love that feature. Johnny and I used it a lot when we were traveling. We'd just sync up our phones, grab the images off the camera, and then post them on Facebook. It's a really good way of getting excellent sharp images, way better than your phone can ever take, because of this excellent lens that's on here and the way the camera creates the JPEGs. Really good. Love the shallow depth of field of especially this lens, the 23mm f1.4 lens. It is excellent, and I'll show you a couple of examples. I'll put them in now. It's just beautiful. You can get, you know, if you're shooting still life, like someone's cooking, for instance, you can get parts of the meal in focus, and parts out of focus, just beautiful. The shallow depth of field on this lens sells it for me. I love that. And the video it's full HD video, 1080p, 60 frames a second or 30 frames a second. There's two downfalls that I've seen is the autofocus. It kind of hunts a little bit, so your videos, the subject's in focus and the out of focus and the in focus. So to get that right, you've actually got to shoot as manual focus. And the image stabilizer, there's no image stabilizer in this lens, so you've got to hold it really still, otherwise there's a lot of shaking in the video. Alright, so let's just have a quick coffee to clear my throat. This is, yeah, love my coffee obviously. Beautiful. So back to the video, I'm comparing it against a professional SLR camera, which I do most of my professional video on. So maybe I was hoping that the video on this would be similar or better than the video on my Canon camera, but it's not. I do shoot my Canon, this one in manual focus too, because the autofocus isn't the best when you're shooting in video also. So it's the same trade-off, I guess. It's just that I've got image stabilizer on here and I don't have it on here. So I'll have to have this on a tripod or something like that. But if you're running around, you just want to capture everyday moments, it's pretty good for that kind of video. Not too bad, just hold the camera still. Those are the pros. The cons are the autofocus. Obviously, I've spoken about that, especially the tracking autofocus. If someone's running towards you, a subject is running towards you or moving, it's not the best at that. I've tested this extensively because I photograph kids and movement, and that is my income, professional portrait photographer. I wanted to see if this camera could replace my professional SLR camera, but it can't, because it just can't track something running towards you that fast. It's just not there yet, and maybe in the next release or maybe a different Fujifilm camera, but it's not quite there yet. The battery life isn't the best, but it's not that bad. You do need a couple of extra batteries, especially when we're in New Zealand in the cold. It doesn't last that long. The battery grip, which I've got on here now, is a great addition to this camera because it just makes the camera a little bit bigger to hold on to. So without that, it's a little bit small for my hand. With the battery grip, you just screw that on there. It does feel a little bit better, for me. Maybe for someone who's got smaller hands, it wouldn't be a big deal. The only problem with this battery grip is you can't get the card out, the memory card or the actual battery. So there's the battery, the memory card's in there too. Another thing that is probably not the best design is the part where you screw your tripod onto it. Once you've got your tripod on there, you can't get the battery out and you can't get the card out. So I would have put that, more closer to the middle, but maybe they couldn't, don't know. So that's another thing that's not so great about this camera. And the video isn't that great because of the things I spoke about before, the autofocus and the image stabilizer. And when you're shooting professionally for kids photography, that type of thing, not the best for that. I wouldn't replace my SLR camera for that, or professional video. I'll still keep my SLR camera for that. But great overall camera. Actually, something I forgot to mention, which is really good about this, is the low light characteristics of this camera. The sensor is that good that in low light, when it's getting really dark, or it's pretty much too dark for most cameras to shoot, especially something like this, a point and shoot camera like this, the Canon G12 that I've got. It's this would not handle dark situations where this camera really excels in it. So that's basically the quick review of this, the Fujifilm X-E2. Great overall camera, excellent for holidays, for traveling, for everyday family events, things that are happening in the house. Great for landscapes too, especially if you've got a wide angle lens like this one, which is a great little lens. This is the 14mm f2.8 lens. Behind the scenes stuff, still life, just general family moment things. It's a Great camera for that, and it's small enough that you can just pop it into your little bag and carry it along with you. And I'll tell you a little story. You know, because I photograph on my digital SLRs all the time, that when I actually travel and go to life's events, you know, like a birthday party or getting together with friends, I never take a camera anymore. I wasn't taking a camera because it's just too big and it's too bulky to take along. Have to pull it out, pop a big huge flash on the top. So I wasn't using it. I was using my phone to capture life's moments. Well, since I've been testing out this camera, I've been taking this everywhere and capturing events which I would never have done before, or I would have used my phone, and often I'm too lazy because the phone is a little slow and you got to, you know, it's not the best camera on the phone. So I wouldn't even use that, and I don't want people to call me, so I might even have my phone turned off. This is excellent for those type of moments. So if you are a professional photographer, you got a digital SLR and you're not taking it out anymore to things that you want to remember and you want to actually take photos of, but it's just too much of a hassle, this is a great alternative to get excellent photos, and it's not too big and bulky and it's not too overbearing. So that's about it. That's the quick Fujifilm X-E2 review. And what I'm going to do next in the next blog is we're going to run through the images in detail and have a look at where this camera really excels in images and where it doesn't do so well. So what did you guys think about that? This is an awesome little camera for certain things like traveling and kids photos, snapshots, that type of thing. But it's not so great for other things. Please leave me comments below. Have a great day.